So we're going to be talking about podcasting tips and tools, and so and how to start a podcast with no audience. And can you remember what it felt like to have no audience? You've been doing it a while.
Yeah. It's in a lot of ways it feels like it. I mean, it wasn't too long ago, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. It's not easy. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of imposter syndrome that at least I felt, but I know a lot of other folks feel that way, and you just feel like I don't know. I felt like I was like on the outside of some party that was going on. I could hear the music. I can kind of look through the window and see that I could see silhouettes of people having a good time, but I just wasn't quite in there yet. And I was like, what is the secret? How can it be? Where's the doors? And I'm not quite. Maybe I'm not on the inside yet, but it does feel like I'm more on the inside, and it just takes a lot of showing up every day, day in and day out. I feel like that's something that I've seen folks that I look up to in the business and podcasting realm. That's what they do. So, but yeah, it's tough, and but thankfully there's a lot of really good people in the podcasting space, and so that's a good way to find support.
Any other like fast ways to build an audience, or like ads, or shortcuts?
It's tough to find shortcuts in podcasting. To be honest, podcasting really, at least from my experience, growing a business in podcasting, but just interacting with podcasters as well, it tends to be a pretty slow grind. I mean, folks that have like huge thriving shows right now and are making a living off of it, it took them around the 2-3 year mark where they started to really start to feel like this thing was rolling and becoming its own media kind of enterprise. And that's really what we've started to see podcasters are like, is that you are, whether you're a huge show or not, you're a media company. And so operating like one is when we've seen folks do the best. And sometimes it just takes a while to figure out your niche, your messaging, your audience. And that's no similar for our story at Squadcast. It took a few years for us to get rolling. A lot of it was because we had a lot of learning to do.
And what about YouTube? Now there are some stats that say it's bigger than Apple Podcasts. Like, what do you think?
Well, it's a huge question that everybody in the industry is trying to figure out right now. There's definitely a lot of data that supports trying to have some type of presence on YouTube, the SEO benefits, and just also the distribution benefits. I mean, there's a huge audience of folks that are searching on YouTube all the time, and so if you can get their attention, that's a great place, because they might not be looking for your stuff on the podcast apps that way. So it's a great way to get exposed. And also there's just people that are more visual learners. They don't necessarily want to consume content only through audio.
Have you heard if that's sort of sorted out yet? Where in YouTube, like Shorts now has a place you can go to a separate Shorts area. Although I just created a separate Shorts channel because I don't want the Shorts to interrupt the main flow of the 3 to 7 minute or 15 minute.
It's a great question. Just on a personal level, I'll tell you, my most of my content consumption, audio and video, is done on YouTube now. I'm a big fan of YouTube Premium, no ads, and being able to like turn the screen off but still listen to it. And I listen to shows, I watch shows, full length clips. I don't know why I watch just like talking heads, but because that's the thing. Are people like, but podcast, you like listen to it. I want to do dishes and I want to do this. And it's like, yeah, I do that too, listening to YouTube. But I also sometimes, for whatever reason, want to watch them talk. I don't know why, but it is something I do. And I hear a lot more people are doing that than what I think a lot of people that are pure podcasters. I don't think that's intuitive to them.
If you were going to start a podcast today, how would you do it different?
Yeah, I mean, I really am. I'm very fortunate because not only do we have access to this amazing software product, Squadcast, to record our shows remotely, I also have a team. I think that's something that not everybody first starting off has access to. I think that's huge. And then, yeah, I would record it on Squadcast. I would edit it in Descript. I would host it on one of those, one of the major well-known platforms like a Captivate or Transistor. I would try to keep it very simple, something that I can consistently keep up with. So probably maybe bi-weekly at first, and then elevate it to weekly. and then try to find a team to help me scale things up and take off some of those jobs.
Yeah, and what about SEO with transcripts and things like that? Have you heard stories of your um, people that use Squadcast doing big gains in their website because of all the content?
Yeah, well, we're excited to offer transcripts on Squadcast. I don't have an exact date, but it is something that's scheduled for this year. And it's really because there's so much innovation going on in the transcription space where the quality of the transcription services are continuing to increase and the costs are continuing to decrease. So it's really getting more accessible and approachable than ever. So we should be able to offer something this year. And yeah, that's what we see. Now, I'm no SEO expert by any means, especially talking to you, but transcripts are a huge way to realize those benefits in addition to show notes. Show notes is another step in the podcast production process that I think is easy to overlook, but it's also something that's very important, and those benefits can have SEO and backlinking benefits. So yeah, there's unfortunately there are easy steps to skip, but I think it's becoming more of a requirement and an expectation as the industry continues to professionalize and mature.
What about the future? The last question.
It's an interesting time in podcasting, I'll tell you, because we had this crazy rise in popularity and growth in 2020 and 2021. And it doesn't seem like that. It seems like that's kind of cooled off. But the thing is we're still growing. And that's the thing about podcasting is like, it's not the crazy out of nowhere growth that you see in other technology spaces like crypto, or we're going through one with AI right now, which I think is really exciting and interesting. And podcasting probably will have a role in that. But with podcasting specifically, it's consistent, relatively small growth, but it's always growing. And so I think that will continue, but we do got a lot of growing to do. I mean, as an industry, it's still relatively small and still relatively immature when you compare it to a lot of other creative mediums. And I'm talking about like dollar size, but then also just like, stuff like having roles and nomenclature kind of like clearly identified and all agreed upon. It's still very early days for podcasting